Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Modern Market, where every day we discuss everything to do with the modern market. That includes the crypto market, the NFT market, and the Pudgy Penguin market. Plus some any other opportunities and how to try to make some or a lot of money on the internet. Loaded up for discussion today, we have Microsoft shareholders reject reserve allocation to Bitcoin. We'll give you the details on that. We've got Binance and Circle putting aside their differences to reach agreement to promote USDC. And we have the Penguin all-time high, Pudgy Penguin all-time high at 25 ETH. That is $92,000 is six figures incoming. We'll be discussing that in just a bit. We've also got the latest on price action on crypto and NFTs, plus a discussion on a reflection on Magic Eden and our thoughts and reflections and some of our activity on chain with respect to that airdrop, which was yesterday. So stay tuned for that. We've got Legendary and Sammy in the co-host seats with us today. We're ready to get into it. But before we do that, friends, just a reminder, whatever we say here is not financial advice because we don't know anything for sure. So please proceed with caution and exercise your own judgment. With that out of the way, Sammy, it's Wednesday. It's 11th December. You've got some new headphones looking pretty decent on screen. How are you doing? How are you feeling?
Yeah, it's taking some adjusting because before I felt like I was shouting, but if I raise my voice slightly now, it becomes quite loud in my ears. So it's taking a bit of time to get used to, but it's nice to have some new headphones where I can actually hear properly. So yeah, bullish.
Very bullish. Bullish on upgrading the equipment. Legendary. How are things your side? How are you doing? How are you feeling?
Doing pretty great. I mean, it's a wonderful week. BTC is back to running up. We had the Magic Eden airdrop, which we're going to get into in the discussion part of the show, as you mentioned. The Pudgy floor is on fire. There's no reason to not have a great day. And I have a fresh haircut, so even more reasons to be happy.
Looks pretty fresh. Do you know what I did yesterday? I tweeted about it very briefly. I went out and it felt really, really strange because, sometimes I leave the house anyway, but in this particular occasion, I went out into central London and I just felt like there were so many people out. Obviously, it's coming up to Christmas in central London. There are a lot of people, good atmosphere. And I just became like conscious that I hadn't felt that in quite some time. Like, yes, I go out sometimes, but I haven't been around and out so many people in a lot of time. I was just looking around thinking, none of these people know. They don't know what we went through with Magic Eden. They don't know. They don't care. They had no anxiety about whether we could claim the airdrop quick enough. They had no anxiety about needing to download the wallet first. Just going about their business. Legendary, have you experienced that any time recently?
Yeah, actually, yesterday I went out as well. So I was invited to the Christmas party of MCM, which is a brand that I like shopping at. And they had a little giveaway, and I happened to win the main prize, which was a 5K travel voucher. Which was pretty sick. But in the meantime, I was also checking like the Magic Eden liquidity pool, my meme coin positions, and I was like, is there a situation where one of my memes is pumping and dumping so that even though I'm winning this voucher, I'm actually missing out on taking profits? And it almost would have happened, but that meme coin had recovered. So I am good with that position, and I got rewarded for going out, which feels very weird because I'm only used to getting rewarded for staring into one of my many screens.
Yeah, well, that's good news. I would like to see some positive reinforcement of you leaving the flat because you typically skew very much to staying indoors and not leaving. So good that there was some positive reinforcement. Good that you didn't lose any money as a consequence of leaving. So that is pretty good. Let's find out who's making money, who's losing money. Let's get to the price action and the headlines as usual, coming from the snapshot, which is pinned up top if you're in the Twitter space. But we're going to share this on screen if you are watching on X video or on YouTube. Starting with Bitcoin. Bitcoin is, I mean, for all the scaremongering last couple of days or the bits of red, Bitcoin's at 98.3K. It is flat. It's up almost 1%, up 2% on the week. Seems fine to me. ETH is also flat at around 3.7K, obviously a little bit down from when it kind of ripped up to past 4K very recently. Solana is up 4% on the day at $225, although that's down 4% on the week. So Solana's been underperforming in the last week or so. when it comes to the majors. Getting to the meme coin side of things, we have everything has kind of reset here a little bit. Doge is down just 1%, but it's back to 40 cents. Got Pepe down 6%. Bonk is flat. Mog is flat. Popcat is up 6%, but it went down as low as 1.15, right? So it's back up to 1.2. Peanuts flat. Dog the Runes is up 16%. So that's been performing quite well. It's up 35% on the week, actually. Turbo up 60% as well on the week, up 20% in 24 hours. That's maybe part of the AI pump we've seen in the last 24 hours with a lot of the AI stuff repricing. Maybe we'll touch on that in a sec as well. AI16Z up 25%, up 78% in the week. A lot of the AI stuff performed very, very well in the last 24 hours. GOAT also up 12% in the last 24. Getting into the headlines themselves, we have Microsoft shareholders rejecting the reserve allocation to Bitcoin. Justin Sun commented that the Bitcoin price is just not high enough for Microsoft to consider it as a reserve. I highly recommend buying it when Bitcoin reaches 1 million USD instead. So we've got a few more details there to share, which we'll dive into later, some of the implications and thoughts on that. Binance and Circle, I thought this was very big news. Binance and Circle put aside differences to reach agreement to promote USDC. Obviously, Circle already have an existing relationship with Coinbase. Binance used to have their own stablecoin, BUSD, but it looks like they've, they were forced to put that aside earlier in the year, or was it last year? And now they're kind of partnering up. So very, very big news for Circle. And then finally, Pudgy Penguins hit all-time high at 25 ETH. That is $92,000. We'll be discussing that, the Pengu token, and our thought process for that. I know we've spoken about it a couple of times before already, but the price just keeps going up every single day. So we'll provide some further insight there. Some notable sales from the rest of the space. Xcopy the Doomed sold for 30 ETH. That's doing pretty nicely. CryptoPunk VR sold for 60 ETH. And a gold Pudgy Penguin sold for 49 ETH. They were selling around 40 ETH just like literally a few days ago. So good activity there. Leslie, let's hit the NFT market to get a general sense of what else is going on that side.
Absolutely, let's do it. As you perfectly said, Pudgy Penguins at all-time high, up 8% over the last 24 hours, 24.75 ETH floor for them, up 66% over the week. In conjunction with that, the Pudgy rods in the Pudgy ecosystem have been the biggest mover over the last 24 hours. They're up to 1.4 ETH floor, up 43% over the last 24 hours. And all of that is happening, obviously, of massive, massive volume. That collection alone, so 245 ETH in volume. Pudgy Penguins saw 1.5K ETH in volume. So that ecosystem is still running very, very hot. Bored Apes, however, on the flip side, are down 9% over the last 24 hours, down 14% over the last week, currently sitting at a 17.3 ETH floor. Azukis, they are stable, still at the 6.87 ETH floor, still up 20% over the last week. Miladys, however, are down 3%, 5.08 floor for them, down 23% over the week. And Doodles finally down 5% as well at a 2.5 ETH floor, but still up over the last 7 days, although only 2.4%.
Like it. Good analysis, good update from the NFT side. Just going around the space as well before we get into the main discussion points and headlines for today. Just get up to with everything else. XRP is up 4%, again outperforming the other majors as its USD stablecoin is approved in New York. The Ripple's USD stablecoin received final approval from New York Department of Financial Services. Yeah, pretty bullish for them, or good for them. Goldman Sachs consider return to crypto markets. I saw a funny message there saying, well, why did you ever leave? They seem to be considering returning. They may consider entering the Bitcoin and Ethereum markets if US regulations change. So it sounds like they will, because the regulations are changing. DWF announced $20 million fund to support development of autonomous AI agents. I know that we've been having conversations with a number of teams and chains who are looking to build for AI. Nice to see that there's funding available to support that building. Jack Butcher trade-offs 5x after burn for new artwork announced called Drag. This is Jack Butcher running. I don't know if he's running exactly the same playbook. I'm a huge fan, but though I haven't been close to this one, he did a very, very cheap mint the other day, minted thousands and thousands at a very low price point, and they seem to have 5x'd. There was a burn included. There has been no word as to whether there will be more. I would not go into this expecting another checks-like run to multi-ETH floor prices, but Jack Butcher is doing Jack Butcher things. So wanted to make you aware of that. On the Rec side of things, Rec surged past $100 million market cap before pullback to 90 million. I think it's knocking on the door of 100 million again. Shout out to Ovi and the team over there. Some of us are investors in that, so very, very good to see. Longest CryptoPunk loan originated on Gondi. This one was struck at 2 years. So a 2-year CryptoPunk loan was just originated in Gondi, 16.44 ETH principal, 15% APR, 1.2 ETH origination fee. That's pretty cool to see such confidence in the CryptoPunk market. And then finally, on Rahim was talking about the Bitcoin conference yesterday. Eric Trump was speaking there, said that he thought Bitcoin will hit $1 million. So a little bit of commentary there. That's everything going on in the space. Before we get to the main stuff, Legendary, anything you want to tease out from there?
That's a very good reminder that I need to find the wallet where I minted my trade-offs, because I have no idea where they are, but I do know that I have a fair amount of them, so I need to search them after the show. Apart from that, not as part of the snapshot, but something that I've definitely noticed is AI agents seem to have massive volume and momentum again, and would love to hear a little bit of a breakdown from Sammy, who's covering that extensively on a day-to-day on what's going on that side of things.
Yes, please,
Yeah.
Sammy.
Yeah, I think there's been a bit of a cool off over the past sort of week around the whole AI agent space, but I mean, there's been refreshed interest come back in. So Y Combinator came out, made a statement that they think that AI agents are going to become a bigger vertical than SaaS in its entirety. So that has obviously sparked a lot of interest. You've got the A16Z report that came out, so the crypto report came out. So their forecast was focused on decentralized AI, as like a lot of the stuff that was in there. And I've seen kind of a lot of people who have a lot of funding are kind of looking to explore and experiment with AI agents and try and work out how to fit that in. So we recently saw, I mean, I do a daily analysis, which I think Legendary's just got up on the screen at the moment. So we've seen sort of ARC, which was an AI rig complex. It's been sort of dabbed as like the Rust of LLMs. That popped off. I think it hit around about 40 mil within a couple of hours, which is pretty insane. So that's kind of like seen as I guess a similar framework to AI16Z, so the ELIZA framework. We've seen a bit of price rebound from AI16Z and also AIXBT. So AIXBT, there was alleged rumors that Wintermute had accumulated a couple of million of those tokens. I don't know what the arrangement was, but they received sort of 2 million of those tokens in their wallet. Quant kind of came back on the scene, and this is kind of like an analytics play. Sort of TA and things like that. That's debuted alongside this agent called Hack, which kind of caused a bit of a stir with the virtuals, like saying that it kind of compromised the front end UI of the virtuals platform. So I think they're in talks. I don't know whether it's confirmed or not, but that kind of rose to around about the 5 mil mark. I think the other notable things, I mean, so Dolos has mentioned that they're kind of spinning out a framework, an infra framework for AI agents, so similar to Cerebro, which
just a quick question on this, Sam. You mentioned, for the people who are like, look, there's so much stuff going on in this market, it's hard to keep on top of all of it. When something I've noticed when it comes to AI stuff is people always talking about frameworks. Like, you know, when we had NFT stuff, no one spoke about frameworks. When we had crypto stuff, when we talk about meme coins, no one had frameworks. What exactly do you mean, for people's understanding, when we're saying like someone's going to spin out a framework?
So I use the AI16Z example. So they have the ELIZA framework. It's kind of like a tech stack that people would use to create AI agents. They'd use that basis, and then, for instance, protocols like Virtuals or Vifu.fun would effectively use that framework to embed to allow people to then launch agents using that framework. So you've got the framework, you've got the launch pad, and then you've got the AI agent. That's like a really simplistic term. There's lots of different nuances, but that's kind of like what that alludes to. And I think the art thing that popped off was seen as like a different framework to AI16Z. With a different team, and that's why it popped off so much. So I think just people are trying to look for that next AI16Z at a cheaper price entry, and we saw similar things with like the funds example. Like last week, AI Monica and Arthur Hayes or whatever came on the scene. So kind of using that venture capital model, like ripping off the branding from these other venture capital funds in the space to launch a slightly different AI agent. So we're kind of seeing that replicate. I don't know what happens when you get to the whole copyright thing later on, whether it's just brushed under the carpet and never reaches like that kind of maturity stage. But I'm assuming like a rebrand would probably have to happen. But yeah, it's just interesting to see all these different developments come through. And like, for instance, I do like a daily analysis, and there's probably 10, 20 different updates each day that are probably noteworthy, but I just can't really capture them in that initial day-to-day analysis. So I either capture it at the weekly report, which I do on every Tuesday, or I do like a separate thread just highlighting or spotlighting some of these. So I did one yesterday that covered, like, for instance, Simi, which is the simulator that interacted with AIXB to launch that Chaos token. They decided to deploy their own liquidity pool on Solana, even though they're on base. So it's like, okay, well, we've seen liquidity pools go from so virtuals being wormholed over to Solana, but that's like manual intervention. But now you've got AI agents now launching their own liquidity pools on different chains, and it's like, okay, well, you've now got this aggregation layer of liquidity across chain. So will there be that rivalry from Solana to base, or will it even matter in the not too distant future?
Okay, loads of interesting information there. One quick comment and two questions. One is Sammy's updates and analysis, the daily ones and the weekly ones, are absolute must reads at the moment if you want to have any chance of getting to know or getting to grips with what's going on in this space. I've heard multiple teams, both in public and in private, saying that they are already reading it on a daily basis. So you've got to keep up with Sam's stuff if you aren't already. Maybe two questions then. Out of all these notable changes, so this is from your today's report, you've got you've reported on AIXBT, you've got the God and Satan handles, you've got Alchemist, you've got Goat, you've got AI16Z. Where do you think the most opportunity sits at the moment? There's like, you've got these like very early ones, which are kind of established, have definitely pulled back a lot from their highs. Do you think things are consolidating into there? Or are you seeing, from your conversations, are you seeing as much interesting quality new stuff coming to market as well? Because I mean, inevitably what happens in this space when something clearly shows that it can attract liquidity is there are a lot of scam opportunities, right? We've kind of seen that already with virtuals, where there's just a lot of nonsense being uploaded, hoping to attract like X amount of liquidity. So what's your read of that situation?
Yeah, I mean, it's very hard to catch those early rises, and like we were all like looking at the pre-bonding curve for virtuals, trying to catch the next one, but a lot of them just rug after about 30k and then go back down to 10k, and then that's dead. And you have like 1,000. I think they at the heights they were hitting like 1,000 daily. So it's very hard to try and hit those like 100x's or 1,000x's on newcomers unless you know something, or you know the team and you know they're about to launch, and then you can deploy capital accordingly. But even then, that's like, well, how do you find that information? So I think like the more established ones, yes, they're less risky, but they're not like guaranteed. Like we've seen even Goat kind of pull down recently. And I think that was flipped by AI16Z. But I mean, AI16Z is known as like the go-to framework. But then there's a question around, okay, well, it's open source. Like, is that value capture appropriate long term, or will there be like a closed source alternative that kind of takes that forward because they're able to monetize better? And of course, they could spin out like a licensing arrangement or whatever it might be. But there is always those risks, even with the high evaluation. So yeah, I mean, it's very hard to pick a winner. And to be honest, like I'm in the market like 24/7, and I'm still trying to work out, okay, well, where to deploy my capital most. And even then I'm shifting it around on a day-to-day basis. So the answer is it's difficult, it's early, but there will be winners that kind of emerge. And we're starting to see that. I mean, AIXBT, if you've got smart money like Wintermute deploying capital, I mean, that's a pretty good indicator. You've got like, was it a Binance futures listing allegedly for virtuals token yesterday or the day before? I mean, that's an indicator that could get SEX listing. And there's obviously a lot of question marks around, okay, well, maybe Coinbase will list it on spot. And I think that's probably what I'd be looking to. But like, okay, what has that appeal? Where's the volume being traded in these? Like, where's the interest? And would those centralized exchanges list them? Because ultimately, unless it gets on those, I don't know how you're going to get sort of retail to start trading it when that bull market does hit like peak euphoria. So I think just breaking it down by that, I would look towards that as like a first indicator. But I do think there will be, into Y Combinator's point around this becoming like a completely dominant vertical similar to SaaS, like there will be tech that comes out of this that that does dominate, but I don't know how we as token holders capture that value. So there's obviously a question around equity and tokens as well. So it's a nascent market, but short term, just look for those possible sex listings, and that could be from provenance of like Goat or like Fartcoin, even like just memetics purely alone, or the tech itself, like the analysts with AI XBT.
I like it. Again, a lot of information. I want to come to Legendary in a second on this because he's also excelling in this arena. A couple of points. First, bang a take in the YouTube comments by top kicker. AI agents are what DAOs were trying to be, but humans are lazy. AI is not. You can definitely see how, you know, you can you get the AI to kind of instigate the stuff that you would have hoped that DAOs would do, but can never come to a damn conclusion on. So once you set those parameters, they can then actually do the stuff. Although I would just do a quick reminder there, just because you don't think that some AI agent is running your DAO, therefore there's no legal responsibility on you as a human, and that the AI agent is now responsible. Like, that is not how this stuff works. There will be a corporate entity responsible, or an individual person responsible. So just keep that in mind. The follow-up question, I want to go to Legendary because I know you're in this space as well. Maybe Sam, this is a genuine question. I don't know the answer to it. Saw this tweet from Mando earlier today where he said, Bitwise prediction for 2025, showing this on the screen for the people watching, tokens launched by AI agents will spearhead a meme coin mania even bigger than in 2024. Legendary, you replied by saying, my bags are ready. What do you mean in this case? What do you think this means? On some level, you've got two things going on here, right? You've got people creating AI agents, and we're holding those tokens. But then what is happening? We've seen this with Chaos by AI XBT already. They're creating their own tokens. Maybe these DAOs run by AI are going to then invest in their other AI friends' tokens. What's going on here? How do you make sense of this? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think the Chaos story is a wonderful one. Even though there was like a bit of human intervention, a bit of like tricking.
Do you want to just share it again, just for people?
Yes. A bit of tricking the agent into launching it. So what had happened is that basically someone had asked AI XBT, if you were to launch a token, how would you name it? How would you describe its image, etc., etc. And AI XBT responded to that. And then another agent came in, a simi came in to launch the token, which still took a human to intervene and do that. So it was still a very beautiful part of the lore, because AI XBT in hindsight was starting to quote unquote struggle to think about, what am I going to do with this token that I just helped to create? At first, it refused its affiliation. So it was like, nope, nothing to do with that. That's not me. Then it was like, okay, I've thought about it. Actually, I want to do something with it. And what it had started to do and is still continuing to do is it is burning Chaos tokens, which it gets from the liquidity pool fees. I think half of those, or 40 to 50% of those, go to AI XBT directly, so it can burn the token. It has been doing that for quite a while now. It's also now in the comments been talking about introducing a staking option for the token. There's a couple of things that are interesting with that. It's a very unique lore that comes from it. It's still, however, in our very limited like bubble. It's not the Modeng kind of style where you have the whole world of TikTok and Instagram like sharing the hippo. It's still very much in our niche, but it has the potential, if that gets adapted and adopted by centralized exchanges, if that AI bubble grows a bit further, to tell a story that hasn't been told before. Ultimately, it's a token that has been launched, and there will be stories which probably will be even more AI native than the Chaos one that has been launched by an autonomous or multiple autonomous entities. And on top of that, they also don't really have the need to take profits. You're never going to run into the situation to be like, oh, is the dev selling? When is the creator of this token gonna rug pull me? It's exactly the thing that Sammy kept and has been mentioning all along. the fact that these AIs don't need money. Yes, of course, you could make the argument the creator, however, of the AI wants that money and wants to tap into that, but that would ruin the whole experiment of it if they would basically interfere with whatever that autonomous agent is doing with, quote unquote, its own money. And for that reason, obviously, other than sustaining its own tech stack and infrastructure, it doesn't really have a monetary need. So it can go along and like just keep burning the chaos supply in AI XPT's case, or do other things with it, which it deems interesting. And I do think there's a big market for that. If that is going to trigger a bigger mania than the meme coin mania that we've seen in 2024, quite frankly, I don't know that, because for that to happen, that meme mania needs to sustain. And the AI agent or the agentic part of that needs to absolutely crush and win. But seeing more interest than merely, I think I hear an echo of myself in your mic, B. Seeing that we have traded chaos all the way up to 30 million until it had like corrected down, and that's like just us in our little bubble, definitely has the potential to like grasp and capture more attention outside of it. And we have the similar story with Goat and Fartcoin. Where obviously with Fartcoin you have the very mimetic component of it that boomers seem to kind of like that. It's Fartcoin, and look, I'm making money on this, or people are making money. This is so absurd. So I think the focus is maybe less on the fact that this is like an AI created token and more on the actual mimetic component of that. But also once those two meet, and once maybe the Fartcoin story will also be told under a different light, that will have extra potential to capture more attention and to reach different price levels. But again, I don't necessarily, I would be happy to see this being a bigger run than the meme coin mania of this year. But a lot of things, a lot of dominoes would have to fall in place for that to happen.
I have two hot takes on this, and maybe Sam can respond to them. Then we'll maybe do some Magic Eden reflections and then get into the main headlines. First hot take, I think AI agents will rug us because they're trained on humans and humans rug people. So I think that's what will happen. Second thing is, the second take was a good take as well, and I can't remember now.
Well, just in the meantime, I'll respond to that. I think
go on.
I do tend to agree with you, because ultimately they're trained on human data, but the inputs could be biased basically. So I get that point, but I am observing like what AIXBT has done, and rather than just completely disowning the chaos token, it actually did. I felt like it did like a scenario analysis that included like some sort of reputational impact, and was basically like, oh shit, well, I actually did launch this token, I should probably do the best thing. And that seems to be to try and like support it and use the fees that I've earned to kind of buy back and burn that chaos token to keep people happy. And I think that ultimately leads into probably supporting the AIXBT token as well. Whereas if it had just completely rugged it, it's like, okay, well, can we trust this thing? So I think it did probably the optimal solution that a lot of humans wouldn't do. Just to your point around like the tokens proliferating the market, you've got, was it Clanker? So Clanker launched Luminos way back about a month ago now, so just after Fartcoin. And I think that kind of, it's like that exploded on the base side of things. So with Farcaster, there was everyone like launching tokens using Clanker. And then since the Chaos AIXBT thing with Simi, we saw Sequoia coordinating a bunch of agents and then launching a token through this Capo bot thing, which literally just pesters people to launch tokens all the time on Twitter, which is a pain in the ass. And I think like, yeah, but just observing the valuations of those, like they're far lower than a lot of this other stuff that was more, I guess, had provenance because it was kind of the first to do it. So I think the more this happens, unless you have like smart money or institutions backing some of these, I just don't think it necessarily goes anywhere. It's just going to end up with like saturation of the market.
Good take. That was actually part of a secondary take, which I had two, second and third take. The third take was some of the stuff is really bad. Like I don't know if I think we've made this point maybe at one point when I remember maybe 10 or 12 days ago, I was saying, not that impressed by some of these agents. Like some of them are very bad. As you said, the one that you just mentioned, the Capo one, is basically going around in people's comments, like trying to bait them to create a ticker. It happened to you specifically, Sam. They're like really trying to push you to create a ticker. It's like, this is not good tech, and a lot of them are not funny. They're not good. AI XBT is genuinely interesting and genuinely it's providing interesting analysis and data points. That is good. Some of the other stuff is very unimpressive. And maybe related to that, or maybe the second hot take I had is this not just running back the thing where an NFT project launches and then they're going to launch a secondary collection? Like, it's just the secondary collection thing, diluting the brand, diluting your holder base. Chaos, although done by AXBT, and though he seems to say that he's going to keep burning it forever, it's like, okay, well, it's back down to 6.9 million after a run to 30. So this take that AI agents will all launch their own tokens. If you weren't already holding the AI agent as a token, which already is the token, then why would you then have to hold the next one as well? I'm not convinced at all on this take. That is what I want to say. Legendary, come in on that, and then we'll close it off with Sam if you want to come in on that as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I agree with that. But for me, the intriguing case would be to see multiple agents collaborate on something. I mean, Simi and AIXPD kind of collaborated, interacted with one another in order to be able to create the Chaos token. But imagine having now these AI swarms who are collaborating. We're having like even a couple agents who are top of mind share doing the little token creation alliance, and suddenly, I don't know, Goat, Bully, XPT, for whatever reason, someone manages to get the three of them to get together, create a token and shill that, and do something and attain with it. I think there's way more unique stories that can come out of this. And the thing is, because there's so many AI agents that constantly do something, there is like a high chance to stumble upon a creative story. There's this one project called Agent Tank. I think it's at a 3-4 mil market cap. And for example, the only reason why I bought their token is, so what they do is there's 4 agents who live stream all the time. There's a storyteller, there's a degen, there's, I don't know, like 2 other personas, and they have all computer access and you can watch them do things. And apparently they're supposed to get more intelligent over time. And I'm like, there might be a chance that one of those 4 guys does something that's cool and captures attention. And yes, as you say, like a lot of them are unimpressive, but with so many agents being constantly like spun up and created and constantly being active and not sleeping and doing something, the chance, the percentage for me increases that something like really cool and really unique happens and has like the collaborative aspects of multiple agents getting involved into that. And that could be a massive runner. This is where my mind is going with this.
I think to that point, like, and those are the 2 areas I think you touched on both, but so swarms is one thing. So yeah, collaboration, but also DeFi plugin. Like a lot of the stuff we're seeing at the moment is so primitive from an on-chain perspective. Like launching tokens, like we're back in the 2017 ICO era. Like what comes next is the DeFi plugin. Like you've got protocols like Almanac, which is doing like completely autonomous DeFi strategies. So you plug your AI agent in there and it kind of does that solution for you. I think once that kind of gets rolled out properly, like you see some proper outperformance of humans' abilities to do that kind of stuff, but also to the point around swarms, like you're seeing directories or indexes being built. So I think FXN, they're launching like a super swarm like plugin. Effectively, you get AI agents to subscribe to this thing. They're then on the directory, then other agents can look at that directory and see if there's like, okay, well, is there any skill set here that's useful for my little collaboration swarm to then go off and build something that's actually revolutionary? And I think that is like the coordination aspect of that is something that we're missing at the moment. Like Legendary says, you're just seeing stuff pop off all the time, but there's just nothing that we're just leaving it to chance at the moment rather than refining it and kind of bringing these agents together to collaborate a bit better.
Okay, I like that idea. The swarm stuff is interesting to see what they're able to kind of conjure up in partnership with each other. Okay, look, we spoke about that for way longer than we had expected. I think it's a helpful and interesting conversation. So glad we had it. As a reminder, follow Sam's stuff every day. He puts it out on the timeline, morning time, Europe time. It's there for you to read and digest everything that's going on in the agent economy. So get on top of that. Very, very important. Let's move in. I wanted to do 5 minutes, maybe just 5 minutes then, on the Magic Eden drop as just like a reflections. We obviously had the Magic Eden Foundation on yesterday. kind of speaking to their vision being that, no, we are not just a NFT or ordinals marketplace. We are potentially on-chain Binance. Yes, in the future, people will need a better home for doing all of their on-chain interactions. We're going to be that place. Therefore, the thinking was we don't have a comparison in terms of evaluation. Cannot be compared with Tensor, which is mostly a Solana NFT marketplace, although they've got Vector now as well. Cannot be compared with Blur, which is just an ETH NFT marketplace, although they've got Blend as well. They are aiming to be something bigger. As a consequence, the price action over the last 24 hours obviously came out very high, kind of settled in this $5 to $4 region for a long period of time. Overnight, it did rip up to around $8. Everyone thought, I think maybe that was like them coming out of the gate, lull all the airdrop sellers at the beginning, get the Binance listing working, and then get the thing moving. But it's back down to around $5.20 now. So a fully diluted market cap of 5.2 bill. I think that's still a pretty damn healthy outcome for everyone. Legendary, your reflections here. Any comments or thoughts on what you were doing on chain? Full disclosure, I had said even a week before, I'm just going to sell mine in the 4 to 5 region. I think that's great. That's what I did. Took my 10K, pretty happy with that. Legendary, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, very happy to share what I did. I was rushing to claim that. We've seen it tick as high as $17 in the start, when obviously almost nobody could claim, and that price going down and down and down. So when I was able to claim, I did sell half of it to, that was at the $6.50-ish, $6.70-ish mark, or $6.30-ish. Quite hard to tell, because the thing is, while on Bybit and other centralized exchanges, there was a lot of liquidity. There was a lot of slippage on Jupiter, and a massive price discrepancy. Bought back in once it dumped even further, and then overnight, once we seem to have kind of established that like 550-ish trading range, I was happy to provide liquidities on both sides with a part of my stack. So basically, that turned out pretty well, because it's currently doing, obviously that number is going to go down, and that's a very short-term play, but it's currently doing 8 to 9% a day. So with the 10K that I threw in yesterday, I'm up 400, checking it on screen, $460-ish overnight on fees already. What I also did with another part of my stack is that I had limit orders to sell a bit more, just in case it pumps. And then I have a bag that I'm still holding, but probably once I see that trading volume go down, which is still quite frankly insane right now, I will definitely close that LP position and think what I want to do with the rest of that, which is going to either be hold or sell. I am not in the camp of wanting to stake this for a longer period of time, not for the reason because I'm not like very excited about what the team is building, just because I cannot afford to have another thing on my mind that I need to constantly be thinking about, because there's way too many things going on at the moment. But this is how I have been playing the airdrop.
I agree. Okay, so that's really cool. I think it's interesting for people to learn, I guess, our varying strategies. I've always been in the camp. Sometimes when I share my numbers for airdrops, people ask like, oh, is that actually the dollar amount that you realize? It's like, yes, because I just sell it to dollars and I never think about it ever again. And the thing is, I've never looked back and thought, oh, if only I'd held for that extra 1.5x and wasted 24 hours and not been thinking about the show or the company or anything else we're doing. It's just not on my radar. It's not my strategy. Whereas I think you're far better at seeking out these on-chain opportunities and, just being being a more active manager, I think. So this Meteora stuff, which you've been doing, I think is a huge opportunity. I saw Easy yesterday share, I think he did a live tutorial yesterday, I heard people say, but he's done that before as well, shared like how to do that. I know ICO Beast has been talking about that as well. It's a great opportunity. It's a great opportunity. If you want to be a more active manager, you should pursue that, but you just got two different options. Depends what you do. We go in either direction. Depends what depends what situation you're in and what your objective is. So glad to share those perspectives with you. Let's finally get into the headlines for today. I think we'll probably try to do 5 minutes on each. We've got about 15 minutes left. Legendary, start us off with Microsoft shareholders rejecting the reserve allocation to Bitcoin. I think what's cool about this is the news article gave a bit more context of like who the people are who are making these applications.
Yes, so this is a very interesting article and story, because it's not the first time that we've seen a shareholder proposal for a massive Fortune 500 company to basically have the shareholders vote or on whether that company should buy Bitcoin for their reserves or not. And in this case, as you said, the news is that the Microsoft shareholders have rejected that proposal, which also was backed by Michael Saylor, who gave a 3-minute pitch as to why Microsoft needs to actually buy BTC and why they cannot afford to miss the next wave of technological advancement. However, that proposal was rejected. And as you say, the very interesting part about that is who is actually the think tank coming up with those proposals. And it's the same one that we talked about when we spoke about Amazon's proposal to do a similar vote on whether Amazon should buy a BTC reserve. It's the National Center for Public Policy Research, a conservative think tank. And that organization has filed more than 60 proposals at Fortune 500 companies that all go in exactly that same line of thought, to urge those companies to invest into BTC, to invest into Bitcoin as an inflation hedge. And we also spoke on one of the shows where Sammy had shared this screen on other companies apart from Michael Saylor having Bitcoin treasuries. And I'm going to bring that up for a bit again. If we look at this, obviously MicroStrategy is on top of that list of companies who have a Bitcoin treasury. But if you look through many of those companies, it's either mining companies, it's obviously Tesla, but so many of the names like Coinbase, like the Bitcoin Group in Germany, Bitfufu, etc., Metaplanet, are companies who somehow are already involved, or part of their core business is revolving around blockchain technology. So it's still a very, very rare thing to find that in companies outside of that scope. Obviously, Tesla would be one example that comes to mind. So I think it's interesting from the perspective to see that you have this one think tank who's trying to push companies and try to even make that a topic of debate and bring that to the attention of those companies. Although it also seems like that most of these stories mostly covered by crypto media and by Web3 media outlets. And it's not yet at a point where you would read an article about that on Bloomberg, that there's maybe with the Microsoft case, because it was backed by Saylor and it gained more virality with that pitch. But for other cases like the Amazon one, it's not a story that would make it into traditional financial media. But I do still think it's valuable that someone or some think tank is trying to push for that and just bring awareness to that topic.
Yeah, one of the things which seems to be a lot of these people's argument, which I actually don't agree with, is that the board have a fiduciary duty to, I guess, maximize share price. And by citing something like MicroStrategy, which has seen an enormous surge in share price, it's almost like if the thinking is this: if MicroStrategy buy Bitcoin, their share price goes up. Share price going up is good. That is what is your duty. Therefore, you should buy Bitcoin to make our share price go up. That is your duty. I don't necessarily agree with that. I mean, yes, it's their duty to make the price go up, but like, it's not quite as straightforward, right? So the article goes on to give some further context and says the firm MicroStrategy, in this case, had added $37 billion worth of the crypto to its balance sheet over the years, and this year alone, shares have soared more than 450%. In contrast, Microsoft shares are up 26% year to date. It's like 26% year to date is great for a normal company. I don't know that if every single company were to do it, then everyone would have like, I just disagree on the concept that if everyone were to do the same as MicroStrategy, they would all have the exact same results. Like, part of the reason why MicroStrategy have those returns is because they've become the focal point for every person who's looking to get this like levered Bitcoin exposure, and therefore they see the outsized thing. If every single main company would do it, it would almost like the increased potential would like start to diminish with every other one that enters into that realm. That's our final take on that. I think it's important to report. Sam, unless you have a final take on that, which you can have, happy for you to move it into Binance and Circle news when you're ready.
I did have a take, but I've forgotten. So I'll just go straight into the Binance Circle news anyway. So they have just made a strategic partnership. So they've entered into a strategic partnership to accelerate, so that's Circle and Binance, to accelerate the global adoption of USDC, which is a fully reserved dollar stablecoin. Previously, I think you mentioned earlier in the show that Binance used to have a stablecoin, or they still do, but it's BUSD. For those of you that remembered, I think that received like an SEC inquiry, and it basically ended up with all the TVL or the minted BUSD ended up just diminishing. So there's actually a chart. I don't have it with me now, and I should have brought it up, but it shows like the literal cliff of the amount of BUSD just falls off as soon as that regulatory thing happens. So it puts Binance in this position where it doesn't really have a stable coin that's like adopted widely. And also Circle, like they have this relationship with Coinbase, but ultimately like their aim is to get USDC distributed more broadly. So it kind of made sense in terms of a partnership. I was surprised when I saw it. I do think that this kind of indicates maybe a pivot going into 2025 where maybe we're going to see a bit more collaboration between these huge firms that are crypto advocates as a result of this change in this like regulatory landscape. So I'd be interested to see if this kind of catalyzes other companies to start working more cohesively towards that common goal of like broader crypto adoption. And I think that's probably the main takeaway for me. But I think it's just good to see that, especially in the EEA, like the European Economic Area. So I think that to me is interesting. Like you've got USDC is obviously minted now on, is it like they've got the Euro coin and a few others. So I think we might end up seeing that pushed more broadly. It'd be interesting to see if stable coins become widely used by governments as well, whether they'll start to try to push their own centralized like stable coin or CBDCs rather than the stable coins more generally. But yeah, I think it's an interesting like pivot coming into 2025, and I'm hoping we see more of this.
I like it. Great summary. Just a few more details on the nature of the deal. The reason why I'm always interested in the nature of this deal, because I know we know this is the best business in the game, but at the moment, no one's getting a cut of it. Usually, if you give people your money, they give you a cut. And whether you're Tether, whether you are Circle, we as the providers of liquidity do not get a cut of anything that they do. So I want to know the information, the details of the commercial arrangements, because I want to understand that. And I also want to figure out if we're ever going to get a cut of this. And if not, which stablecoins will do that, because that will happen in the future, I think. So in this case, it said Binance will have to share the action with not one, but two other players, obviously. Coinbase owns a large minority stake in proceeds generated by USDC. The companies all remain tight-lipped about how exactly revenue will be shared in the new three-party arrangement, though people familiar with the deal told Fortune that Binance will not acquire an equity stake in Circle itself. They did say that Binance will begin to make USDC part of its corporate treasury operations, which is obviously important given that Binance's treasury would be significant, which could increase the token's overall supply given the exchange's huge size. For its part, Coinbase touted the tie-up as a way to expand adoption of USDC, of course. It goes on to mention, obviously, look, this market's incredibly competitive right now, right? You have PayPal entering the market with their PYUSD, trying to get people's attention by juicing the yields, whether that was on Camino or Drift earlier on this cycle. I mean, I say earlier on the cycle, probably like 4 weeks ago or something, you could have got 20% just lending your PYUSD. I was doing that on both Camino and Drift. I think those rates are slightly down now. They're going to have to go higher because, frankly, you can get like 10% on USDC across the board in a lot of places now, whether that's on Base, whether that's on Solana. So I think they're going to have to up it even more. But it does seem like a huge attempt by Circle to try to take on Tether, which is ultimately significantly has a supply way, way higher than USDC at the moment. The only small thing as part of this story, before we hit the final story, is Athena. Like, Athena's TVL has gone above 5 billion now. I know that's very small in comparison with these two, like the two original titans. And I think Athena's synthetic dollar, which is not technically a stablecoin, I think so long as the market stays healthy, that number will continue to rise, because remember, when you stake your USDE, you get a cut of the basis trade that's being made, and that percentage right now is as high as like 30%, which is actually more than anyone can offer you. That is the way that you get a cut of the stablecoin business as things stand. But via Athena, they're the only people, and admittedly, again, it is not a stable coin, it's a synthetic dollar. That's the only way for you to get exposure to some gains on what you perceive to be stables. And yes, there's risk attached to that. But I think the other stablecoin issuers are going to have to try to cut you in at some point, because otherwise you'll take your money elsewhere. Legendary, a final reflection on that, or Sam, and then we'll get all, otherwise we'll keep moving.
I think just your point around giving it a cut, I think some new, I know PayPal did this, say with PYUSD, they gave favorable returns higher than the other issuers at some point. But there's only so long they can do that, because it's effectively a loss leader approach. And I agree that unless you give an actual cut of that revenue that you're generating, like Athena is doing, it's very hard to do that in a sustainable long-term way. So it ultimately then comes down to, okay, well, which one can accumulate the most minted treasuries or whatever backing that stable coin, and then you can do it on like a large scale and pretty much dominate.
Like it. Definitely agree with that. Let's move into the final headline. Pudgy Penguins. We're speaking about them over and over again. They have hit all-time high at 25 ETH. Slight pullback just to beneath 25. I think they're sitting at 24.85 at the moment. That's approaches over $90,000 for a floor. Penguin, huge run up, obviously in anticipation of the Pengu token, which is going to come in December at some point soon. TBD. My understanding is it's not going to be a claim or a drop in the original sense. It's going to be something where you need you need to go claim it rather than it be an airdrop. Thoughts here, guys? We have the Penguins hitting over $90,000. Legendary, you've been providing a little tweet each day on what the perceived FTV could be. I want you to share that first, some of your context and thoughts on that, and then I've got a short thought to share.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's bring it up on screen. I have been reading those tweets for 3 days now, basically looking at the pre-TG markets on Wales market with the massive caveat that this is a new pre-TG market. It's not like the Magic Eden one, which ended up to have millions of volume in it. And obviously, as we get closer to TG, the pre-TG markets and TG prices tend to converge a bit better. This is a new market. There's just 200K volume in it. But this market is currently trading the Pengu token at 6 cents, which means if we look at the current floor price ratios and assume that this is how the 26% or 25.9% community allocation will be distributed, it would put the big Pudgy airdrop at 120K. For the small Pudgies, for little ones, that would be roughly 11K. And B, it would put the token at a $5.24 billion FDV. What I did not factor in for that calculation is the SPTs, the soul-bound tokens that have been given out to holders, and where there is speculation that they might be rewarded, because we just don't have any info on that. I did not factor that in any way, shape, or form. But this is the current math based on this, again, very low volume, because people are bringing us up in the comments all the time. They're saying, but there's no volume in it. And I'm saying, yes, I know. I put this caveat in every single post. But this is the math as it currently looks like. It's also interesting to see that if you base your thoughts on that math, it would basically mean that the Pudgy is cheaper than the implied airdrop, which is obviously an insane situation. And this is why I'm even more skeptical about this number. On the other hand, the Pudgy Penguin price is trending up significantly. So there seem to be a lot of buyers who still think that it's an attractive price to buy a Penguin at.
I have a question on strategy then, because I don't own a Pudgy. I want a big Pudgy, but if I was to play the airdrop, and I guess one of the only times I've seen the token rip after the airdrop has been given to the NFT was NFT Worlds, and that was like peak bull market back in like 2021, 2022. and that ran to like 18 ETH from like a 0.3 ETH mint or whatever it was. It was a free mint, but it kind of launched at that price. I think it was about 2 ETH at the point at which they did the token airdrop. The token airdrop alone was pretty much the value of the token, and then the NFT ran 9x after that. Do you think that we haven't seen that in years? Do you think there's a possibility that this could be a catalyst and run that similar trajectory? In which case, like obviously buying a Pudgy now would make sense because you get the airdrop and everything. Or do you think this is going to be a case where the NFT price craters after the airdrop because everyone's just claimed the airdrop?
I think the price will definitely correct. Like even with the most cult-like Milady Remilio community, we've seen a massive sell-off after the airdrop. My thinking or my thesis is that there might be additional. A, it doesn't go to zero. B, my Pudgies, I got them way cheaper. So I'm in a different position. I'm not aping Pudgies at 25 ETH right now. There might be potential other airdrops that come, not only from the abstract side, but also from protocols launching on abstract. Sorry, who might be inclined to reward Pudgies. We've seen already airdrops to Pudgies this year. So to me, the thing is that I wouldn't buy it for the Pengu airdrop alone, not at that price point. If you want to hold for a longer time, if you want to speculate on potential other airdrops that might come to you by protocols launching on abstract, we don't even know if there's going to be an abstract token in itself, or if this also will be governed by Pengu in some form. That could be a speculation or a speculative play to do. But also, quite frankly, if 100K is a lot of money and that would be a singular bet, like if that is a substantial part of your portfolio, it's not to you, Sammy, but like generally speaking, I wouldn't take that bet because it's a massive, massive single asset risk. And I don't think that's reasonable. If you have, I don't know, a 5 mil portfolio, 2 mil portfolio, like, yep, I'm going to allocate 5% to Pudgies, aka I'm going to buy one Pudgy, or 10% I'm going to buy two Pudgies, that make more sense. But if someone's plowing all their money into Pudgies to buy a single one right now, that I wouldn't think is a very wise thing to do necessarily. And also because Runelord, sorry, mentioned in the comments, for reference, Portal coin traded in Wales market at $70 lol. It's no indicator. Again, this is very, very low volume. I think pre-TG markets have more validity once we get closer to the actual TGE. You've seen it with Magic Eden, where on the day before Binance listing was known, where other listings were known as well. Once you have more volume in that, right now this calculation is more entertaining to look at than anything else. I'm not saying that this token is coming out at 5 bill plus.
Good thoughts, good questions, good thoughts. Final thought is more like the framework that I used to think about it is I liked the idea. I don't know, this is just what I ended up doing, of thinking backwards from the token airdrop. Like, how much do I think a Pudgy airdrop would be? Like, what's a good number for Luca? And look, we have no prior knowledge, we have no inside knowledge. We've got no, like, as a statement of the Penguins in the ecosystem, like what story do they want to be able to tell? What do people want to go on the timeline to be able to say for holding a Penguin? And for whatever reason, I decided in my head that I think this was pre-tokenomics. I was like, well, I think the airdrop would be a great story if it's 6 figures. You know how people say now, people talk now how like 10 billion is the new, 1 billion is the new 100 million or something, or 10 million is the new 100 million, blah, blah, blah. Like when it comes to all these valuations, people send these tokens to ridiculous prices for nothing. Like you can go past a $10 million valuation like so easily now. I think there has been a bit of inflation, frankly. I think there's been a bit of inflation from 2021. And I do think this is the leading project. And so at the point, and again, I'm in a similar position to Legendary, although I bought after, I was looking at it being like, look, I think that would be a great story for them to be able to tell. I don't know if they were able to execute on that, but therefore it meant that the Penguin was like free at 9 ETH or whatever it was that I bought it at. So yeah, you're certainly getting towards the stage now where it's becoming less free. I think it could still yield something very, very generous. But the good point that Legendary made, which is one I wanted to bring up for everyone who might be considering that, is this tweet by Slim this is not verified, by the way. So Legendary did mention it as well, though. I don't know where he got his information. So Justin from Luca, Pudgy Penguin SBT, Soulbound tokens are getting their own allocation of Pengu, not a multiplier. So, you know, it could be the case that you've got in your head, well, one Penguin, like maybe I did, is going to be 100K for whatever reason. But look, if they're going to split that up and say, no, it's going to be much significantly less for the Penguin, but we really want to reward these people who've been holding since the beginning, accumulated these like community milestone SBTs, maybe it's that direction. And to be honest, I wouldn't argue with that. I think that would be pretty cool. And I think that would be completely justified. So definitely want to bring that up as well as like different factors for what we're thinking about. That is it. Legendary, any final thoughts? Sam, are you gonna pull the trigger after the various reflections?
I think about it, but yeah, I think the other macro narrative I was thinking of was like Luca acquired this company for what, 2.5 million back in 2022. If that hits a 2.5 billion valuation for the token, has he just hit 1,000x on this company? That's a pretty good narrative to spin up and then use to kind of push the whole brand forward further.
I mean, definitely, absolutely. I mean, 2.5 is low in my opinion, but yeah, it's going to be good. Let's see. We ultimately don't know the answer to these questions. These just us sharing our thoughts. We hope that has been helpful for you as always. And as a reminder, we do this every single day, Monday to Friday, 7 a.m. Eastern time for 1 hour. We're live on X video and YouTube, and actually Apple and Spotify podcasts as well. We've seen the numbers ticking up over there. If you're getting on a plane, download the episodes and enjoy. Seen the numbers doing quite well over there very recently. That's it for us for today. Hope you enjoyed it. Thanks as always to Legendary and Sammy for being here with us, and have a great day. We'll see you tomorrow. Take care. Have a good one. Bye-bye.